Hey guys, in this quick video, I'm going to show you how a high-ticket brand was able to drive $2.8 million in sales in just 4.5 months, and then they hit $1 million a month with YouTube ads. And this was while drastically outperforming their Facebook ads. So let's get right into it. Note, in this case study, we don't reveal the client's name because they're in a very competitive niche, lots of competitors. What we can say is they're in the done-for-you business niche. Some of their indirect competitors equal guys like Kevin David, etc. But that's as far as we're going to tell you in this case study. We will include screenshots so you can see this is real, but let's get right into it. So this client has a very high ticket done-for-you service that they basically charge a fair bit of money for, and they needed a way to get a massive quantity of calls to sell this, right? So basically, before they got into YouTube, they had been testing this with Facebook ads. They realized that, hey, with Facebook ads, they were getting some scale, but they were starting to plateau. The ROI wasn't that amazing. They realized that they needed another traffic source. So one of the partners in the business had actually worked with us in the past and had done extremely well with his previous offer. So basically, we decided to work together on this offer as well. The reason they decided on Linx was they needed fast scale. They needed somebody that could scale to $10,000 a day spend pretty quickly. And they realized that most agencies, most freelancers simply don't have that level of experience. And they also wanted a done-for-you service where they didn't have to worry about making, the scripts. They didn't have to worry about the video editing. They just wanted everything handled for them. And we took care of that completely. And they also realized that, hey, with YouTube ads, you got to go with a YouTube ad agency that focuses and specializes, right? You can't have an agency that does Facebook ads and a little bit of YouTube. They wanted an agency that all they do 24 hours a day is YouTube. So basically the way we started this off is obviously doing our in-depth discovery and strategy audit process where we basically figure out the targeting, we set up tracking, and we script video ads. And once we had this video ad scripted, the client had returned them, we had made variations and edits with our internal video editing team. We then started campaigns at $1,000 a day. Now at $1,000 a day, the cost per call was coming in a little high at $150 to $200 mark. However, we knew this was a new account. We knew it would start going down after a month or so, and we basically had to just continue testing and trying different things. So the client was a little nervous because when we started out, the cost per call was higher than Facebook, and they were basically a little worried. However, we reassured them that, hey, this is part of the process, right? Like YouTube ads gets really good in months 2 and 3. Month 1 is usually quite mediocre. The other thing about this offer also was the selling cycle was pretty long. So the first 3 weeks, we were spending $1,000 a day, and we didn't really get any real results, right? Like we didn't get any sales. We were getting calls, but we didn't get any sales because it takes 3 weeks to sell somebody on such a high ticket offer. However, as we went through our audience testing process and tested hundreds of audiences to find the winners, and as the algorithm started dialing in, and as we started figuring out which creative was working and wasn't working, the cost per call started to go down. So basically where we were at September, we were $150 a call at around $2,500 a day. And then we started our rapid scaling phase. And the cool thing is, as we rapidly scaled up to $10,000 a day, the cost per call actually went down to $90 to $120 a day. So it went from a very high cost per call, but through audience testing, optimization, letting the algorithm really dial in, we were able to get the cost per call down while basically 5xing the call volume. Now, once we had started getting sales, which was around the 3 to 4 week mark after we first started running ads, we started switching to optimizing for sales instead of calls. So basically the way that works is, right, we use a tool called Hyros, and what we do is if a campaign has a really good ROI in terms of sales, but it has a high cost per call, we keep it on, right? Like even if it has a $250, $300 cost per call, if the ROAS is there, we keep it on. So our cost of call went up a bit because we're getting audiences that were a little bit more expensive, but they're qualified and they actually purchased. Note that in this case, we reduced cost per call while going from $2,500 a day to $10,000 a day. Usually cost per call or cost per sale goes up as you scale super fast, but in this case, we were actually able to bring it down. So YouTube is a great platform for scale, especially for big, broad markets. Now, our very best campaigns included keyword campaigns, custom intent campaigns, and custom affinity campaigns, right? And we used very broad campaigns. We would use custom affinity based on competitors. We would use keywords, basically the sub niche we were in, and these all worked very, very well. In our experience, one of the things you got to do when you're spending over $3,000 a day is you got to test very broad audiences, right? So instead of placements or keywords, you want to test custom affinity, in-market ROI, basically these bigger audiences. And keywords can still work, but just keep in mind that as you scale up, you're going to have to go broader and broader. And the reason this happens is because the algorithm needs to be trained, but once it's trained, it's really good at finding your customers, right? So what were the end results of this? So we basically did over $2.8 million in revenue and over $1.75 million in profit as compared to just $335,000 from Facebook. So that's like a 5x increase. And our cost per call was also 40% cheaper, which is pretty mind-blowing, right? Like we basically generated way more volume and also had a much cheaper cost per result. So yeah, YouTube can work really well at scale. Now, keep in mind, the first month with YouTube versus Facebook, I can guarantee that Facebook probably had a lower cost per call, while YouTube had a higher cost per call. But in the long term, as you scale up, YouTube typically outperforms Facebook when it comes to high scale campaigns. One thing that I do want to show you in the screenshot is that we had over 10,000 calls. Now imagine if you had 10,000 calls for your business, right? 10,000 people getting on the phone to actually purchase your product. All right, so one thing I want you guys to notice is there are around $3 million in unattributed sales. That's because the salespeople often did not put in the right information when uploading the sales to Hyros, or they perhaps a customer purchased with a different email. With these high ticket calls, if you're not very disciplined about making sure that you getting the email they opted in and the email they purchased from, and making sure that you have the right email and reconcile that, it can lead to tracking gaps. So with 3 million in unattributed sales, the reality of this is that YouTube probably at least brought in another $1 million to $1.5 million in sales that aren't attributed because they don't really run any other traffic sources other than Facebook and YouTube, and that's $3 million in unattributed sales. So yeah, realistically, we spent over $1.75 million in this time period, generated over $2.8 million, and probably closer to $4 million. Currently, we're spending $10,000 a day, and we're working on scaling to $15,000 to $20,000 a day. Now, the next steps for this client is obviously you got to hire more salespeople, just because currently they're fully booked. So this would allow them to scale to $20K a day spend. They'd obviously have to work on their operations and fulfillment side before they can scale, which is to ensure that they can take on these new clients. And once ready, our team would start scaling to $20,000 a day while maintaining a reasonable cost per call. Now, cost per call may go up a bit as we scale. However, our goal would be to keep it under $150 at the highest. And, as you scale, CPAs can go up. Thankfully, they haven't gone up in this offer and have actually gone down, which is why we love YouTube, right? Like Facebook CPAs will go way up, while in YouTube, they might go up a little bit as you scale. Now, our end goal is to be generating 165 to 170 calls per day at 20K a day. So let's see if we can get there. Now, do you want to scale your customer acquisition on YouTube? So the next steps for you are to actually click the link below, basically a form to fill out, and then you can book a call with us. So we're going to actually give you the specific strategy you need to make YouTube ads work for your business. We're going to give you feedback, and we're going to actually give you what you need to know. This won't be a sales pitch. We honestly only work with a very small percentage of the number of people who book calls with us. It's more of a session to see if there is a potential fit. And if there's not, we're still going to help you out. We're still going to give you the next steps. We're still going to give you the step-by-step strategy to scale your business on YouTube ads. Book a call below to learn how you can do that. Note that we offer both agency and training options. So if you're actually an agency, we can actually help you get better results for your client. And if you're a business, then we can actually run those ads for you so you don't have to worry about lifting a finger. So I will see you guys on the call, and thanks once again for watching the video.